Hi, this is Angelina Asante. Welcome to another edition of Live from Florida. This is Tim Jacobs, a friend of mine for years and years. He actually edited all my books, and he's been telling me about the stuff he's doing now, ghostwriting, which is keeping him busy. How's it going, Tim?
It's going fine. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you. I think it's been a couple of years since I've seen you.
I think it's probably been 4 or 5 years since
Oh, has it?
Kat and I got our motorhome and left Florida. So,
Oh my gosh, time goes by so fast. So, for those of you out there in podcast world, Tim and I have known each other, I want to say probably 7 or 8 years. He did all of the, editing, copy editing, all that stuff in my books, but also he's an author and historian. So, we did quite a few book signings together too.
yep.
So, Tim, what's going on with the ghostwriting? I didn't realize now everyone I know that's an executive came out with books. They're almost like business cards nowadays. Everybody's writing a book. But it seems now it's not just for executives anymore. Everyone's writing a book. Tell me about your ghostwriting. I didn't even know you guys were doing that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we just say a book is a business card on steroids. Because besides, like a business card would be your contact information, a book is your message. It's, what your opinion might be, it's what you believe in, it's just why you do what you do. And basically, what we do is we work with business owners, CEOs who want to have a book to coincide with their business. As an example, if you're a personal trainer and then you have a book which has nutrition tips in it, it has exercise regimens in it, and it has, basically theories and studies as why you should do certain exercises to order to get in shape and or stay in shape. It just kind of goes with that program. When you sign up to train with someone for 3, 6, 9 months, that book is something that they just give you to go along with it because it puts that trainer there with you 24/7 when they obviously can't be with you 24/7.
Well, that's interesting. And I do have a personal trainer. I have one here locally, but I had one on that show. I was cast on that reality show, and I kept telling her she would put up recipes on Facebook, and I kept telling her, "Would you compile these and put them in a book?" And she
Yep.
said, "Why? I'll just put them out for free." And I said, "If you want to put them out for free, that's fine, but you should still do that in a cookbook because people could find you and that even like the podcasting, anything that you can do to bring, your audience to you. There's so many people out there reading books now and doing podcasts. So how does one get started? How does someone decide I want to be an author, but they don't have to do the hard part?
Yeah. Basically, I would say most of our clients, their number one reason why they don't have a book is because they don't have the time. They're too busy standing in a room giving a presentation, they're running their business, they're traveling, and they're like, hey, you know what? I have all this content that I present for an hour, hour and a half to a group of 50 people, 200, 2,000 people, whatever it may be. But then when they go to sit down and try to flip that script into something that's readable, they kind of just draw a blank. And that's where they come to us, where we could take that video, transcribe it, and then kind of polish it up so that it reads. Because when you're talking with someone and have a conversation, you listen. When you're reading a book, you pause and you think. So it's same message, but there's two different ways to get that delivered. And through a book, it has to be delivered differently than how you might say it. And that's what we do. We just help people write it so that it flows. Some people have, hey, I got 30 blogs that can easily be a book. True, but you need to segue to them, one blog to the next, so it flows, so it doesn't sound choppy.
Well, and I can just imagine trying to deliver something like even humor, that's really difficult in nonfiction anyway. So if you're taking somebody's speech or their notes and you're trying to turn it into a book that's entertaining and informative, that's probably not an easy job.
True. I think mostly with our clients is we want that book to sound like they are talking to you specifically. And a lot of times what they'll do is at the end of each chapter, there might be 3 or 4 questions. So now you've just read this content. Now you're asking yourself about the content and you're writing down some answers. And the whole purpose of that book is to be, while you're going through the book and or when you're done with that book, You want that call to action. You want them to call you up and say, "Hey, I read your book. I have questions. I read your book. I need some help with my business." And that starts their relationship, hopefully, to becoming, basically a client of that person that put together that book.
So, has anybody come to you with a book with a topic where you're like, I'm not doing that?
No, because that's their business, that's their topic, so they know it. We just have to ask the questions, and they just kind of dump the content out, and then we organize it. We don't need to know, like, I'm not a nutritionist, and neither are any of my writers on my staff, but you're the nutritionist. We just ask you the questions. You know what's healthy, what vitamins do what, all those kind of things, what essential oils might do what for you, things like that. That's all their knowledge. That's all their expertise. So all of that is always there. It's just having that conversation to kind of get it out of the head and out of the heart and onto paper.
So now you have written several books, and also now you've gotten involved with some book awards. Can you talk about Kat's book program?
Yeah, she has a program. It's called Northern Lights Book Awards, and it is for authors or children's authors and illustrators and even publishers if they want to enter some of their clients' books, which they have done. She's been running this for the third year now. She's working on the winners list right now as we speak. And it basically honors children's authors where their book really shows merit. It shows like kind of like a Curious George thing. It's going to stand the test of time where, generation after generation is going to read this children's book and, get some joy out of it, get some entertainment out of it. And I mean, right off the bat, she's had Simon and Schuster, Random House. I mean, even the big publishers have entered some of their clients' books in there,
Oh,
as
wow.
well as self-published authors and smaller like indie presses like Pajama Tree Press and like right out of Sarasota, Pepper Tree. I think they're called Pepper Tree Press has entered books and stuff, and she has a panel of judges. They read and they have their questions that they go through to figure out, to kind of narrow it down to what they think. But they do a book of the year, they do a middle grade book of the year, and then there's a bunch of different categories: history, humor, on through the list. This year there's 65 winners this year.
So I'm glad you brought up book awards in the pre-interview because this is something you and I have talked about a lot over the years. I was past president of, one of the larger groups of authors in Florida, and we had a book awards program. And the quality of the books, sometimes you would get them from authors, and a lot of them were traditionally published, but you would get the majority that were self-published. And this is where your skill as an editor comes in. We would turn the first page or second page and say, why on earth did this person think that they could win an award? Can you kind of talk about how important it is to have a professional book? I mean, you're going against the big publishers. You need to have a book in order. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think today with the self-publishing that has really blossomed beyond what anyone probably thought, especially with Amazon having Create Space now, KDP Publishing, and it's a couple clicks of the mouse, you're a published author now, basically.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely important because presentation is everything. People do judge a book by its cover, and everyone, if you're reading a book and all of a sudden there's an error, there's an edit that should have been made, and it's just like, it's missing a period, things like that. All those little nuisances just add up where you don't want to read that book. Whether it's a thick novel or even if it's a children's book, it's the parents are tripping up reading it to their kids. I know that Kat has a unique situation in the few years that she's been doing this. Besides just spotting a book like, this one is just going into the pile where it's not going to win, she has trouble where there's 3 or 4 books that deserve Book of the Year, and it's really tough to decide which one to go with. So she's definitely getting good quality books, and usually that lately has been coming from the small indie presses versus the larger press, usually from the larger publishers and or the self-published people. But for her, it's been a struggle of deciding which book to choose out of a handful that she feels really are, they should all get that award, but obviously it can only go to one.
That's a good problem.
Yes.
That's a good problem because I know, like, even with my first book, I remember working with an editor, one of your staff, you know who I'm talking about, and I had given the book to several people, several of my friends and several of my family members, and they're all like, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is great. I wouldn't change anything." And then I paid you to have your staff member, who I love, look at the book, and she gave it back to me, and I said, "Oh my God, look at all the stuff that she changed. Look at all the stuff that I was like, well, I don't agree with this stuff. And then I put it away for a couple weeks. And when I reread her comments, I was like, she's right. Everything
Yep.
she said was absolutely right. But I think sometimes when you have friends and family looking at a book, they can't really be objective. Can you kind of speak about that? Because I know you and I know several people who we say, oh, did you have your book professionally edited? Oh, my spouse edited it. Well, that's scary because they're not going to do a good job. Right. Right. Now, Tim, can you give a few tips for that aspiring author that has not finished their book? Can you kind of give them a few tips of things you absolutely have to do when you come to the end of your book? Yeah, that's a really good point. And the differences between nonfiction and fiction are really interesting too. Because I know it was a heck of a lot easier to write nonfiction for me than it was to write fiction. There's just so many things you have to tick off in the fiction box. Are you finding that with doing editing for ghostwriting? Is that easier with nonfiction? Well, Tim, it was so great seeing you. I haven't seen you for so long. Can you tell people how to get in touch with you and Kat? Well, thanks for being on, Tim. Good luck with you and Kat, your future endeavors. You guys are always so busy and always posting fun things from